So solar plexus month and the inevitable uh, conflict that may arise in yourself and in direct relationship to others. How we deal with conflict is this fight or flight. We are all programmed to have a particular response in either direction, and we've been trained in either way too, based on our families of origin and these relationship dynamics, and also just your disposition. Sometimes it's like your nervous system disposition. I saw a great video on Facebook of these different children playing with a jack-in-the-box. And what was really fascinating was that some of these kids, and we're talking like a year old, they have no idea what's coming. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, boom. And some of these kids, and then they like push it back down and they want to do it all over again. Other kids, when this thing goes off, they get blown like it was a blast from blowing out the doors, screaming, crying, running. One kid like got knocked over. He was so scared that he got up and started smashing it. Like, these are babies, and it's like, this is a response. Some of your nervous system response is just normal. Like, hey, this is your normal go-to. If you are hyper-reactive or super sensitive, particularly to fear, our adrenal glands are connected to the kidneys, and the kidneys process, they like sit right on top, nestled in there. And it's right in, it's no mistake that everything's in the solar plexus area. We usually think about our chakras just as being this like front opening, but it's really a three-dimensional thing, this vortex that's kind of affecting all of these areas of our body. And the adrenal glands, where they rest, that is our response, and our kidneys process fear. So your relationship to fear and that fear response is going to happen. So sometimes the fear of a conflict, it's like, I'm gone. Forget about it. You might be that kid who, then wants to, like, in fear, gets aggressive, because then we feel a little bit like a caged animal. And how does that get triggered? We don't really, you'll know when your most reactive states, right? So it's when the reaction is just so overblown that you recognize, okay. And when I say overblown, it could be an imploding. So if you're a runawayer, it's going to be in a dissociative tendency or an implosion, and then a quiet, eating of itself. And then you hold on to maybe that grudge or resentment, and it'll be there until somebody comes along and inadvertently pokes it again. And then there it is again, and you might try to run, and you might try to go further away, and you might even try to cut these people out of your life. Like, these are also, I found a very cute, if you are tied into astrology at all, there was a little, and again, it's simplifying things, and it's a stereotype, of course, but it's how every sign apologizes. And that's if they apologize. It's like how they apologize. And then it was one of them, it's like, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that you made me mad. Like that's an Aries. Well, I'm sorry that, that you did something to make me mad. That's how an Aries is going to apologize. It's like the Scorpio, there was nothing. Because the Scorpio will just never apologize. If anything, they'll just go away. It's like, oh, there it is. And then it's like the Pisces. And it's like, I know I was wrong, but you also have to admit that you were wrong about this, and that this was happening over here, and that definitely, it's like, I know I was wrong, and I'm sorry, but there's also this sorry. It's like, yeah, I know. It's like, these are all, we can see these things, and sometimes that imploding energy, or like just, no, I'm just not going to ever apologize, or I'm just not ever going to talk about that, or I'm just not ever going to have that conversation. You can try. It'll follow you for the rest of your life. It's like you can run and you can hide, but it'll be there. And then on the other aspect of it, it's like, how many people do you need to prove wrong? How many, what are you going to pick every battle? Are you going to, be that dragon slayer of all wrongs in the entire world and make sure that everybody knows exactly how wrong they are all the time? It's not very useful. You're going to wind up feeling really drained and burned out. And there are just certain things that you see a circumstance, and that's the way it is, and I'm going to let that go. How we choose to use our personal power on the mat is also a very appropriate observation. Do you run away from fighting with your body, Do we give up really easily? Do we just roll over and then start feeling sorry for ourselves? Or do we kind of question our baseline, understanding of it? When I first started practicing, I was very aggressive and rigid, and I had a lot of negativity towards myself. I don't belong here. This is never going to get easier. Everybody else is better than me. Why is everybody else so calm? I'm the only one who's having a problem. What is this? So I would just kind of fight with my body. My body is stupid. Why am I so? My balance is awful. I have no strength. I'm the weakest one here. So I was just fighting, berating. And that energy in my body all the time was painful. I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of inflammation. I have arthritis, was diagnosed when I was like 21. If I do certain things when I realize that I'm fighting all the time, I get really inflamed and my body hurts more. And then when you're in pain, your tendency is going to be more reactive. You're going to be more reactive when people kind of brush up against you. That really hurts. Why am I so reactive? Well, it's like I'm ultimately eating myself all the time, so anybody else who's going to come along and just brush up against that is going to get that full rage of myself. When I started acknowledging, maybe I shouldn't fight with my body so much. Maybe I should be a little bit more gentle. Maybe I should calm down a little bit. I don't always have to go for that next place. I don't always have to be refining to the next degree. I don't have to keep reaching for that carrot of this posture a little bit more. Let me just accept that today. And I'm not giving up. It's not defeat. I'm just taking a break. I'm just going to take it a little easier. Once I started recognizing that, it really then started to impact how I show up with other people and picking my battles. You have to pick your battles on the mat just like you have to pick your battles in life. And how we deal with conflict, it's like conflict resolution is a big aspect of it. Are you constantly making other people wrong, or are you constantly making yourself wrong? There's a good dose of self-awareness that should accept and own what's yours, but also acknowledge and recognize that there's another person involved, and it's a collaborative effort what these conflicts bring up, and it's not as black and white. There's so many gray areas. We know that there's not ever really a straight line to any of these things, and what is coming to peace with something is recognizing the full depth of it. It's never going to be just they're wrong, I'm right, or I'm wrong, they're right. There's very many gray areas and shades and flavors of it. How we deal with criticism when we receive criticism is a pretty big tell as to how we are doing in our spiritual path. Swami Satchidananda from Integral Yoga was the first training that I received, had a really nice 4-step process to kind of the layers of a spiritually maturing human being in how they respond to criticism coming at them. The first stage is basically what we all do, and it's like from the beginning. I receive criticism, I defend myself, and I react. I justify my position, and it's not my fault. Like when somebody's criticizing you, well, there's something, it's not me. Boop. Well, I did this because. Boop. Well, that's because this. Boop. It's like, and then if I get defensive or reactive and then try to prove that other person wrong, especially if I know that the person who's criticizing me is wrong, then why am I going to put any energy into it? If they want to look at me like that, like I did something wrong, that's just the way that they're going to see me. They're not going to recognize. If I know in this moment that something else is going on and I'm being criticized unfairly, why should I defend myself? There's really no need. I just need to be able to walk away from it. But that first level of reactivity, I need to prove my point. Do we? Just observe. It's like first see, is that your go-to reaction? The second level is to actually hear the criticism and go, well, is that, I'm going to pause and reflect. Instead of a knee-jerk defensive reaction, did I do something wrong? Is there something I could refine? And if there is, thank you. I appreciate that. And let it be. It's like allow that and say, thank you. I'm sorry, and here's what I can do about that. It's like the next level is or rather the second level would be just to hear the criticism and not have any reaction whatsoever. The third level is to hear the criticism, reflect on it, and then say, I'm sorry, This is what I own, to really own what it is that you did and say thank you. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. When we can, as a spiritually mature person, say, you're right. I'm not great at that, and I appreciate your insight, and I'm sorry, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. That's like a nice little. The fourth level is to say thank you and then go the extra step and do something nice for that person. It's really, it takes an extra level of spiritual maturity to own that you made a mistake, to say thank you for it being brought to your attention, and then to go out of your way to do a kind gesture, to say really, no, thank you. It's like this extra thank you. And it's really challenging to put into practice, especially when the person has got like a bone to pick, and really what they were looking for was your defensive reaction. So if the conflict and what it is that we get sucked into is that we have this tendency, well, if you're bred to fight and the other person likes to pick fights, well, then they're going to constantly be lobbing these criticisms at you. So how are you going to work with that energy? It's like kill them with kindness. It's the opposite. It's when you can say, oh, you're right. I'm sorry about that. What can I do for you? It really throws them off their game. You want to piss somebody off who's trying to be, like reactive and really trying to get you engaged. If you just continue to say thank you and what can I do for you, it really drives them crazy. So, if there's something, and that's, when I was in my first training, it was 15 years ago, and I was still married, and I have little children. And I was a stay-at-home mom and teaching a little bit at night, and I was going through this training program and really trying to integrate the lessons and see how I could do it. And my ex-husband is not a very balanced, emotional, spiritual human being. He has a lot of trouble with anger, which so many people do, especially on the island. So we had been stuck in this kind of dynamic for a very long time. And he would come home from work and be super bent out of shape. And because he was unhappy in his work and he was unhappy with the way that people were treating him. So it's kind of like the classic, you come home and kick the dog. It's a psychology that whatever you're exposed to, then you're going to come home, and it's a crass metaphor, but shit rolls downhill. And you just kind of take everything out with you as you go. So that was his pattern. He would come home and then immediately start to criticize me for the house wasn't clean enough, dinner's not ready, the kids are being loud, what did you do today? What did you even do today? So I would get this, onslaught. Immediately I would feel defensive in the past. I would justify my existence and say, well, what do you mean? What did I do today? I'm a stay-at-home mom. When was the last time you stayed home with two kids? One that's peeing on the side of the couch and the other one who's a toddler scaling things. And I'm lucky I took a shower today, let alone like, what does this house look like? And I would just immediately go into this reactive space normally. But this one day after the training, I had really contemplated and thought, if I want to change this energy pattern, what am I going to do with this? So he came home in his typical funk. You could see the gray cloud over his head. And he immediately started nitpicking the way that the house looked and the way that things were. And, oh, I don't want that for dinner. And, and it just kind of like was getting more and more agitated. And I hear the lesson. What do you do when you receive criticism? Can we say thank you? Can we do something nice for this person? And it took every fiber of my being to do so. But I said, I feel you. Do you have a really hard day? Is it really bad today at work? Did you have somebody who's like, well, yeah, I mean, it sucks every day. It's like, I feel you. I know how hard it is for you to go to work every day. And I know sometimes you think that like me staying home is like really such a cakewalk. And I know that it's different for you. And I'm really sorry that you feel like you have to go there every day. And I really appreciate what you do. And, you do take care of us. And I really do appreciate what you do. And, do you just want to take a shower? What do you need? What do you need right now to feel to shift? And he just kind of like stopped and said, well, I don't know. I don't know. And I said, well, okay, think about it. Maybe when you go take a shower, do you want a foot rub? He was like, he kind of stopped in his tracks, like, because my normal reaction would be to completely defend myself, justify my position, and get sucked into this engagement of me versus you and how dare you. And instead, I owned that moment. I owned it. I redirected it. He took a shower. He apologized. I'm sorry. I really did just have a really bad day. And it was like, I feel you, and I'm sorry that you had to do that. And Can we redirect? Yeah. In the moments when I could remember, that was what, and then how did I own that moment. My power controlled that moment. And it wasn't because I was dominating, and it wasn't because I was aggressive. It was because I was compassionate. So how do you find the compassion? Sometimes you just have to put a boundary around people because they're just going to be negative no matter what. And even after you offer, if you go through all of those lengths and you offer, let's put the flour in the barrel of that gun. If you are continually doing that and they're still blowing through it, at some point, reclaim your energy and recognize that the relationship is done and that you do need to put a lot of, firewalls around it, and don't just walk around with bulletproof vests. We can do this to every, it is an option. However, I don't want to live my life wearing a bulletproof vest. I would really like to attract more people in my life who are respectful and owning of their energy rather than projecting that kind of, energy all the time and having to redirect it and kind of work it. When you're really connected to your sense of worth and that sense of deep compassion, you are not going to react, especially when the criticism that's coming at you is unjustified or you feel that they are just overtly attacking you. You do not have to engage with that quality of energy anymore. And first, but it really does start with you. How do you respond to yourself? So first, when we're practicing and when we get into it and when we feel I don't want to do this, or am I pushing through, am I being aggressive with myself, or am I giving up too easy? Find that space then to question, what can I do in this moment? Am I criticizing myself? Maybe. Can I do something? Is there any truth to the criticism? Perhaps. Can I say, what can I do with this energy right now? Let me try this instead. And then can I do something nice for myself after I've criticized myself? Yes. And what is that? It's going to be your own internal process. When you really get skillful with it, you'll be able to bring it out into your relationships. But it's a very good contemplation to figure out how we respond to criticism and what to do with it. So let's close our eyes and come inside if you haven't done so already. And just acknowledge, noticing, maybe we're the one who criticizes. And chances are then you're criticizing yourself. So let's get really grounded and lifted to notice that you are no better or worse than anyone in this room. You can feel the quality of your presence in your physical body, noticing particularly how you feel in your gut, in your core. When you feel a little sleepy or underactive or agitated or overexerted, it's all right. We witness and accept, and we'll notice how we feel after the practice. When you lift and lengthen through the sternum, feel the shoulders resting away from the ears, wherever your hands feel like landing on your legs. If you feel like you need some more grounding, please have your palms facing down. If you are open to receiving and connecting to your more subtle energy, then turn your palms facing up. Lightly connect the tip of the thumb and the forefinger together, forming Jnana Mudra, a mudra of self-awareness. If we're feeling like we have to squeeze our eyes shut, please don't. Allow your eyes to softly focus on a boring spot ahead of you. Your eyes will eventually close on their own when they're ready. You open through the crown of the head, noticing and taking in the sounds of the environment, our general quality of presence and energy. And we start to connect to the breath. So you inhale, really flood all the way down to your pelvic floor, and then gush it out. Release valve. We do that a few more times. As you inhale, take in as much as you can, maybe even hold the breath, and then let it go. If you'd like to sound or sigh, go for it. One more time. And then start to layer in your deep Ujjayi breathing. Ujjayi is an oceanic sound constricting the back of the throat on the inhales and the exhales. It's the same muscles that you use when you whisper. or if you're trying to fog up a mirror. If you're not sure of it yet, it's okay. You can practice with your mouth open for a round or two. It's the same muscles when you're whispering or fogging up that mirror. We'll keep that breath moving and going, burning through whatever it is that we churn up. We set our collective intentions to bear witness to our energy towards receiving criticism and how we can first witness our reactivity, take responsibility for what is ours, offer the thanks for that insight, and then go the extra mile to do something nice for the person who is delivering that criticism. We open the practice by chanting Om 3 times together. Inhale deeply for Om. Ah.